Hey, everybody, it's the Hunting Dog Podcast. This is, I know you all get tired of my long, long intros. They go on and on and on. But this week, for the opening of turkey season, my daughter Mackenzie, her husband Hunter, and my two grandsons, Lawson and Ronnie, came up to go turkey hunting. Well, they also came up for Easter and to see family, but I think turkey hunting was on the mind, wasn't it, Lawson? Huh?
Yes.
And so opening morning, Saturday morning. Now, how old are you? You're 7 years old?
Yes, sir.
7 years old, and you went out turkey hunting with your dad and Uncle Adam and a whole film crew, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
What time did you have to get up in the morning?
3.
3. Lawson, do you realize that I don't ever get up at 3 in the morning?
Yes, I can see that.
So what would make you want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Pretty much nothing but hunting.
Oh, okay. So you drove 16 hours to get here. You
Yes.
stayed up late, and you and your dad got up at 3 in the morning to go meet Uncle Adam.
Yes.
All right, how did it go early on in the morning? I mean,
Pretty good.
did you move around or did you just stay in one spot?
We moved around a little bit,
Keep talking.
and we moved around a little bit until we got to one cornfield, and two gobblers came in running from my right.
So you just heard like,
Yes, sir. They came running in from my right, and they stopped running like 10 feet in front of me, and they got in line. I was going to shoot him, but nope. I waited for one of them to get out of line, and then I shot one of them.
I saw the video you kind of got a little excited, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes, you did. I saw you, I think, did you hand the shotgun to your dad and you ran out there and chased it down, didn't you?
No, I just left the shotgun there.
Oh, you
and
left the
I
shotgun there? That's great. And we all got to see that video, and we hung that turkey on the tree.
Yes, sir. we
Yeah.
did.
And so this is what I understand now is going to be like a family tradition.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Now, what makes you like hunting so much?
Well, it's fun because my dad has been taking me in the woods since I was 2 and couldn't talk.
Well, you kind of got I think what they call that, if you were a goose baby, you were imprinted with hunting.
Yes.
Yeah, and your dad's name's Hunter, so he kind of had a lot of boots to fill. You know, your name was almost Hunter.
Yeah, almost.
Almost, but it turned out to be Lawson.
Yeah.
All right, now what I'm going to ask you to do, now this might be a little difficult, but because nobody wants to hear your boopa read these names over and over every week, so I want you to help me do my intro.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's start from here.
You are listening to the Hunting Dog Podcast. The title sponsor is On X Hunt, which my dad and Uncle Adam used to help me get my first turkey. Our dog Broome sleeps in a gunner kennel.
It's a true statement.
Our whole family uses Garma collars on our dogs. We buy all our dogs
Supplies.
dog supplies from W Supply. All the dogs in our family use K9 athlete products, and they all eat Prina Pro Plan for breakfast and lunch and dinner. My grandpa says next year when I come back, I will have a new Mossberg shotgun for me and Bosch shot shells. We will be using Walton's spice this week when we eat the turkey that I shot. Grandpa
Where's?
wears marshmallow wear 24/7, but my dad is still waiting for his son-in-law discount. Once my feet quit growing, I will be wearing
Arxis.
boots on all my hunting trips. And this week, my little brother Ronnie and I are going to sleep in Grandpa's four-wheel camper. Since we arrived here in Michigan last Friday, my mom, dad, aunts and uncles, Grandma Sana, and Bupa have almost emptied a barrel of Watermark beer.
That could not have been read any better if I would have hired a voice man. Well,
Yeah.
Congratulations on your turkey.
Thank you.
Now, last year you almost got one, right?
Yes, sir.
It's
I did.
7 years old now. You got your first turkey.
Yes, sir.
And how were you shaking? Were you shaking, or were you just?
No, my dad actually got the wrong bullet.
No, he's talking about the new time. This
Oh.
time, where you shaking.
Oh, that was last year.
I was shaking a little bit when I got the shot. I left my gun there. I ran out of the brush. that turkey was like rumble.
He was trying to get away,
He was trying to get away.
but you weren't going to have any of that, were
Yeah.
you?
Until I stepped on his head and he was done.
He was done.
Yeah.
That was exciting. That
Yes,
was
sir,
exciting.
it was.
Now, you shot a deer last year.
Yes, sir, I did.
You know when I shot my first turkey?
When?
I was 17 years old.
Jeez, I beat you so much.
You did. You beat me by 10 years.
Yes.
You beat me by 10 years.
Yes, I did.
And you know when I shot my first deer?
When?
I was like 20. No, I was like, when did we move to Michigan? I was 30. I was 32 years old. And you shot your first deer last year.
When I was 6.
Oh, a shot. Well, I'm so glad you. And when do you think Ronnie's gonna come up? Ronnie's got a couple years yet to go. Your little brother.
Yeah, like 2 years.
Yeah, about 2 years, and then he'll get his chance.
He'll get his chance to get a turkey
And then
a deer.
you'll be an old pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Did you went fishing today too? Though I heard it was not a good bite today, huh?
Nope.
Nope.
Nothing came.
Nothing bit the hook.
Nope.
But you stuck it out there for a while.
Yep.
Was it cold?
Yes, sir, it was.
Yeah, it was a little cold, a little windy. Well, you know what, Lawson? Welcome to Michigan in April. We never know. It doesn't. This is not Florida here. We don't know if it's going to snow the next day or rain or sleet or snow. So we don't know.
Yeah.
But you did a great job. So congratulations, your first turkey, and it came
Thank
from
you.
Michigan, where your mama was born.
Yes, sir, it was.
And all right, I expect we're going to have you do another intro next year when you guys come back to go turkey hunting.
Yes, sir.
All right, love you, buddy.
Love you.
All right, and the second part of this intro is my other grandson. Ronnie, do you know who you were named after?
Poopa.
Boopa. But what's your Boopa's name?
Wani.
Exactly. And your name is?
Wani.
Exactly. How old are you?
5.
You're 5?
Yeah.
That means you only got 2 more years to shoot a turkey.
Yeah.
And what if you're 7 years old And you haven't gotten a turkey yet. Are you going to be okay with that?
Yeah.
You would be okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, what's your dog's name?
Boom.
Where did you get your dog from?
Tuhana Buba.
You got it from Sana and Bupa?
Yeah.
Kinda. Are you good? I heard you were doing some dog training at home.
Yeah.
What kind of dog training?
City.
Like sit
Yeah.
and stay?
Yeah.
Are you using treats?
Yeah.
Can I use treats to get you to behave?
No. Not naughty.
You're not dog treats? What would I? Oh, it's my phone. That's my phone. I can't. All right. So, what kind of treats would I have to make you do good stuff with? Like, what would I have to use to make you listen? Like, use dog treats for Boone, but what would you
Tea.
like? Tea?
Cheese.
Cheese? You mean like cheese sticks?
Tita?
Cheese sticks. Like last night you were having a cheese stick?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what it would take. Do you realize, though, you are like under the gun? You know what that means? You're only 2 years younger than your brother Lawson.
Oh.
And have you shot a BB gun yet?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's
It's
the
a
what's the next step? What do you think? Is it going to be a shotgun or another BB gun?
another big idea.
Oh, you're going to jump right into deer. You think? What do you think?
It's a
All right. Do you know do you know that you're a silly bug? All right, here's the last one. Do you know where we're going to sleep this week? Are we going to sleep in the backyard this week?
No.
What do you mean? Your brother just said on the intro that you and I and him are going to sleep in the four-wheel camper.
Dad, don't.
Oh, okay. Did you bring a sleeping bag?
No.
Do you think Boopa's going to have an extra sleeping bag for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, are you going to stay in that camper all night?
No.
Do you think at some point you're going to want to go back in the house?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
But me and Lawson will be in the camper.
No.
What do you mean, no? Are you sure you're ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, have you done any fishing in Florida?
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of fishing? Do you remember what kind of fishing? Your daddy took me fishing when I first got to Florida.
Wahahi.
Red fishing?
Yeah.
Is that good eating?
Yeah.
Hey, can you tell me? Can you tell me what we had on Saturday for our big dinner when everybody was here?
Dahe. Dahe.
Crawfish?
Yeah.
Was it good?
Yeah.
Have you been eating crawfish
sir.
since you were a baby?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, in 2 years, you're going to have to do the intro. In 2 years, when you guys come, you're going to come back every year. Lawson will do another one next year. And then in 2 years from now, you are going to have to do the intro for the Hunting Dog Podcast. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, buddy.
Aww.
I love you, buddy.
Are you?
All right. I am back on with my friend Jennifer Broome. Let me see where I began. I guess last June, I think, Jennifer, you sent me the book Mastering Canine Communication.
Yes.
And The Power of the Quiet Cue, kind of a trademark name that comes from your kennel name and your philosophy and everything. And then I said, I read it, and knowing dogs for as many years as I've known dogs, I could get the I could picture what you were writing in words. And I said, but I think it's going to go over some people's heads. Not that it's a complicated book. It's not a lot of pages. It's not War and Peace, but
Yes.
you were talking in true dog person terms, and some people won't get what you were saying. You said, well, we have a video accompaniment coming out for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank God. That's exactly I wanted to say it needed it, but I wasn't thinking that.
Yeah.
That came out when?
Um, so I worked on the video, I worked on the video content all last year, and then the video we recorded it last September,
Okay.
in early September. I then went on some hunting trips in September and most of October, and it was a pretty hardcore editing process. I hired an amazing crew from Chicago to do the video, so it's like not just filmed on your phone.
Right.
It
Right.
was a production crew. There was like a director, producer. There was two camera guys, so it was really fun, and
Right.
everything from drones to whatever. Um, and we finished kind of the final edits, believe it or not, like in January, and we got it, I think, early March. So we are in the process of putting it on our website. I think it might be on the website for next week.
Okay. And that's
Yeah,
going to be on your website for.
it's going to be on our website. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll see what creative stuff my marketing team comes out with, because there'll be blips of it, and teasers and stuff like that.
You'll have
Um,
Instagram reels and what have you and
yeah,
everything.
yeah. But it's a 16-part video series, and they're pretty short. I mean, they're anywhere from like 2 to 4 minutes, I think, 5 minutes, the videos,
But it accompanies what people could get from the book and like,
the
oh,
visuals.
basically it's like oh, that's what she meant.
Yes.
You know, which
Yeah.
when you say you're going to do that, I said, that's great.
Yeah.
And so you had one of your people send me a few segments to watch, and
Yeah.
it took me back to when I was putting the Upland Institute together. So my question has got nothing to do with what we're talking about tonight, just a personal question. I sat in on the editing, and I wasn't even the trainer. I was the videographer, but I was there, and I tried to put my input in like as a consumer, not
Hmm.
as Justin the trainer did. With you being gone, were they sending you segments to say, is this good? Is that good? Because
Oh yeah.
I was
We
going to
met
say that,
we
that
met constantly, and I had my hand in so much for that. They would explain something, and then they'd show the dog. I'm like, no, that's not what I wanted.
right,
So there was
right,
a lot. That's why it took so long, because if I said I wanted to see a dog blinking or swallowing or show point of contact, um, it's because the videos are so short. Almost everything had to be perfect.
right, right,
If I said it, you had to see it.
right.
Um,
It's not like
and
you filled it
so
up with a lot of other stuff. It was like, that's what I'm talking about.
there's no fluff.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right,
And the thing too is the video series, it's like, it's more of a branding and to show what the Quiet Queue is about. Would a brand newbie have a hard time trying to go step by step of watching this video series? I think so. I think they'd get to see what the end goal is, and they'd have some ideas of what training could look like.
yeah,
But to support the book and read them, together, the book and the video series, it gives those aha moments.
right, right,
And, coming to QK, doing lessons with me, taking my clinics and stuff like that we teach, that helps delve even further into it. But I really tried to go to a broad audience of like, this is what the Quiet Queue looks like, the
right,
engagement of the dog.
right. Well, then somehow, because that's why I was asking, because I happen to know, and maybe listeners remember, and you've been on one of our Zoom calls with all my not all my patrons, but a group of my patrons.
Yeah, we had a
But that's
hoot.
why I was asking how you did this, because I know for a fact you're gone for 3 months or
Yeah.
more on a field trial circuit, training circuit, this circuit, that, catching up with old friends. So were you just literally getting segments sent to you on your laptop and you're saying, nope, nope, yep, nope, yep, because that's what we
Yep.
had to do. We had to sit over the editor's shoulder.
Yeah.
You just were in a different state, but you were watching it.
Um, they compiled most of it in the end of September and October, and November is when we started having our meetings. So we would meet like once a week, and we would start the editing process. Like it was about once a week, and we go through it, and and by the end of December, the holiday broke it up. Early January, they kind of had the final series, and then it's like the final, then the final, and then of course there's a couple edits of the final because I'm like, I just, I was just really particular about it. I wanted it to be kind of a masterpiece. I wanted it to show how I train, who I am, how I engage with the dogs. The kind of fun fact that will be known when we go to present this is I interviewed a couple weeks before. I put a Facebook post out. I said, "Who wants their dogs in videos? I need guinea pigs for my videos,
Yeah.
and I want dogs that don't know me, that are brand new to me."
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of people apply. And this was like no charge. This was we'll watch your dogs here. I think we had them for 4 days. And I want like the untouched, the untrained. And the little blue merle is a doodle. And that doodle was 3 months old. And that doodle turned out to be one of the rock stars of the videos. I mean, it was like I felt like I had candid camera and sometimes in the background. I'm like, did this dog just do exactly what I needed it to do? And it was so funny because I forget, we had like 7 to 9 different dogs. We had from the 3-month-old doodle to a 9-year-old German short hair pointer that like refused to heel on a leash. And
Right.
she's a field trial dog and she belongs to a friend. But the cool thing was I asked the people to come a couple weeks before to interview the dogs because I just wanted to meet the dogs.
Right.
And I met them and I literally did minutes of work and I went, yup, gonna be perfect. I don't want to touch the dog anymore.
Right.
Because about the videos were very organic. So you got to see the training in the moment. You didn't get to see trained dogs, unless they were my dogs. So Betty Cocker's trained, Philly that was in it's trained, and Phoebe, she was
Right.
not even a year. She was like 8 months old, 7 months old. But otherwise, there were labs, there were short hairs, there were doodles, and they never met me before.
Right. Right.
You
Well,
know?
we did the same thing, like because of COVID, Justin could run a kennel, but he couldn't have anybody over there.
Yeah, I went through that too. Yeah,
And but he would literally call me up and he goes, Ron, come over with the camera. I got a dog that's blinking. Because you can't
yes,
just expect to find that dog and
yeah,
you want to cover a subject. He says,
yeah,
get over here with the camera. And I'd set it up and yeah, it's hard to, and the same thing of using a dog. There's a lot of videos out there that show what it looks like with a dog that already knows it and they're telling you how to do it, but
yeah,
show a dog that doesn't know it. It does show that it's not rocket science, but
yes,
you gotta use the cues. Yes,
yeah.
maybe that's your new
So
shirt. Use the cue.
you got to use the cues, dude. Um, so another thing that was kind of funny is there's a guy behind the camera, and he was so cool. He was a very experienced film guy and an assistant of his, and then like 2 directors, director producers. And one of the directors knew me because I've helped him with his previous dog. So we've had like a 10-year relationship, right? But the other guys didn't know me at all and they didn't know the system. And the coolest thing was I would talk about a topic, I would explain it. So you have the talking roles and then you have the B rolls where
Right,
that I
right.
learned all this stuff because I didn't know what the heck a B roll was.
I
So now
learned it
like
all too. I know what you
I'm the
mean.
quiet now and they're basically filming me work, with drones and this and that. And we all kept having these jaw dropping moments because I'm like, did this just go exactly according to how I was going to predict it did? Like, did this dog really just do this? And the cool thing was because these film guys and directors, producers got to see this process organically happen over the course of 4 days with the dogs, they got such an insight into what to look for or whatever. So they took it from a really, really basic point. And, I still wanted to be really technical. Like if it were up to me, this video series would have been way the hell more technical. And they like keep it simple, show the dog responding, show your actions, and show the results. And one of the hard things was the dogs did the actions and got the results so quickly in the first time that you didn't have the time to show it again because it was already done.
Yeah.
If you couldn't we had one really fearful 8-month-old black lab male. and he was afraid of his own shadow. And my husband had to bring him over because we filmed here at my house at the barn situation. So he brought him over to the kennel like all 4 days. That dog blew his anal glands getting into the van, trying to get into a crate, had a meltdown. Like this dog was very fearful. Well, the very last video I did with him, he like was like a little pussycat gently stepping up into the van and going into the crate
Right.
from a dog that was blowing his anal glands, you know? And the cool thing was, it's like I made such believers out of the film crew that they loved it. They had so much fun and they were so embraced in even the editing process because they saw it happen before their eyes. So that was cool.
Yeah. That would have helped in our case because our editor is a gun dog person, but he's strictly an editor, and he's never trained a dog through the process, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he had a big learning curve because he didn't get to see it.
Yeah.
So that's why I literally had to sit in the room with him for.
Yeah, and I've watched your videos, the video series with Justin. You sent that to me, and it's technical and it's piece by piece, and you break it down. I mean,
Yeah.
when people really want to learn, when they want to be students of anything, you go to you learn from different avenues, and there's a lot of different ways. And the thing is, we call it like tools in our toolbox. There might be things that Justin does on a different way that work better for a specific dog than I approach it, for a way. And I think what gives a trainer such great experience is having tools in their toolbox to know what to do in the moment.
Right.
You know?
Right. Because the guys that maybe who edited for you and were filming, let's say they saw their neighbor's dog and they go, "Oh, I know what Jennifer would do," but that might not be what Jennifer would do with that dog. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we just segued Jennifer into this.
Yes.
Okay. Because we're kind of talking not over people's heads, but explaining how you showed through video what you wrote in your book, and then you doubled down and you gave you gave the world, so to speak, a book called Lead Don't Follow: The Human Guide to the Puppy Mind. And you next day mailed it to me. I got it
I
yesterday.
know.
And thumbing through it, and at one point I was like, "Oh, there's only one thing I don't like in it," and then I turned the page and it was okay. Which was on what's a good age to get a puppy, like a good learning age. But then you went.
Do you like it older or young? Young, just curious.
I like them older, but you made a point of if it's in the right kennel with the right breeder, an older dog is not it's a bonus. But I'll bet you, and I know we're not wrong, half the dogs purchased in this country from maybe some decent breeding stock, or they got a hunt title, or those people aren't really breeders, and they get overwhelmed with a litter of puppies.
Yeah.
And they don't want to keep them past 7 or 8 weeks of age because it's like that's when the real work starts, right?
So that whole ideal 49 days, the time to get a puppy. I think I've raised over 20 litters of puppies, which is not a lot, but I've raised litters of puppies, and I know the different stages that they go through. And if you're doing a good job, you can certainly keep puppies later. But the problem is that if you keep a litter and they get into 10 weeks, 12 weeks, and you keep them together, this is just common knowledge. There's going to be a wallflower. There's going to be a dominant bully. And the wallflower gets
bully, the more the
and they get bullied more, and they can't, so that they start to learn that early development. Anyway, I get to see, my writings very often are what the people have taught me that they don't know. And it just happened this morning. A customer reached out who I helped 16 months ago with, they got a schnauzer, and it's a standard schnauzer. And she showed me her arms, and her arms were all bloody. They'd never had a dog before. And this puppy was ripping her arms apart. Oh. And she didn't know how to correct it. So I brought it into my home. I mean, in 30 seconds, we gave the dog a quick little undercut for biting. I gave a little lip pinch. It went, oh, okay. The dog really, he had a lot of moxie, but we raised him for 3 weeks and just helped do a little reset of him, right? To put him through a training program later on. Awesome dog. Well, at 18 months, she's ready to get another puppy. this is a family this is their first dog. And these are the things that I talk about in my book because my writings are like, what do the people teach me that they need to hear of why shouldn't this lady right now get another puppy? And I'll tell you why. They
Right.
have one little girl. They're thinking about getting a male puppy because there is a litter just born of more schnauzers. Their 18-month-old schnauzer is already really dominant. I I don't think they're still incredibly as much of his leader as they can be. I think he's going to bully the puppy and then ultimately fight. So my
Right.
suggestion was wait one more year till he's like a full adult,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, and then get a female.
Right. Right. Right.
I'm like, I promise you, you're probably going to have a better outcome. So the things in this book, and I want to start with this book because this is like a fun fact you might not even know. This is the book that I started to write. And when I got to, I believe it was chapter 7, and I started to talk about point of contact on page 113, I
Oh yeah.
went,
Yep.
holy crap, this is a book in itself.
Right.
So I finished this book, but then I took chapter 7 and I created the quiet queue out of chapter 7. So
Yeah.
you'll see redundancies of either book because there's some repetition, but basically mastering the canine communication, the power of the quiet queue, is chapter 7 in detail of really how to train the dog.
Right.
And the mastering canine communication came out first because it was about half the pages and half the size, so it was quicker and easier to edit. And
Right.
it literally came out about 6 weeks before this one.
Right. Well, what I like about this book, I mean, again, it's not too many pages. It's not War and Peace. It's 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 like everything. It's like if I had this book from having a podcast for 11 years and all the people that write me about things we're just talking about. I want to
Yep.
get a second dog, or they send me, I'm thinking of this, or this breed, right? Like your book is like a guide for like, it doesn't say
Don't F it
don't,
up. You
yeah,
know what
don't,
I wanted to call it? I had all these names. I'm like, don't F up the pup. Like,
yeah, don't
don't
F, don't
up
F
the
the,
pup,
don't F the
you
pup.
know? Um, because so many people get it wrong from the start by just crazy decisions that I could have gone, nope, stop. Been there, done it. I
Right,
think I can offer you advice.
right. I mean,
Um,
you cover everything, and especially something I've I've pounded and pounded into people who ask me, and I love giving them my phone number. Like you love talking on the phone, especially on your, you know,
my trips.
your 20-hour trips here and there, um, which I'll try to get you through a rainstorm on occasion. But I love giving my phone number to people who write that email because they need to hear it. They don't,
Yeah.
they need to be like, I'm thinking of I'm even thinking of a Spinoni, a short hair, or a Visual. And like, well, you're in three different worlds right off
Yeah.
the bat.
Yeah, you are.
But in
Yeah.
your book, you talk about how to pick the dog, match the dog, but the breeder, like
Yes.
like besides crate training and a little leash, which every puppy should have. I could even say every little toddler should have a leash sometimes. Like, because I got 6 grandkids now, and a leash would not have hurt at some point. Um, Crate training would have helped a lot, but
Yeah.
there's so many dogs out there that people get because they think they want them. But with a book like this, they could even do good if they would pay attention to the book. They might have got more dog than they were planning on it,
Mhm.
but that's usually because they just haven't been into dogs long enough and they haven't read anything or had this is like a mentor, this book, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if
Even
I
the
could
time
ask,
of year, the best time of year to get it and why,
right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Who wants to
Um,
be standing out in December on their slippers, hoping your dog will pee and they don't want to step in the snow,
right. And now
you
you
know?
got a dog that's also says like, I don't have to do this, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
complicate things. People
Yeah.
can complicate this. Well, earlier I said, yeah, it's not rocket science. You take a dog for 4 days and all of a sudden it's behaving, right?
Yeah.
It shows you not that it's easy, but there's a path.
Yeah.
And all trainers that have done it for a while have seen all these different, uh, not aggression, all these different idiosyncrasies with dogs from from fear, from not wanting to eat on the road, from you could break those down and basically fix all of them because somebody left out a block in the, in
Yeah.
the foundation, right?
So there's a book that I used to refer, and I still do, and it's part of my library, and it's Dr. Ian, is it Ian Dunbar book? It might be, I think it's Ian Dunbar. And he does a lot of behavioral stuff that's pretty interesting, especially with like aggressive dogs. But it's before you get a puppy and then after you get a puppy. And they're literally can be kids' reads. Like you can read them to your grandkids.
Yeah.
And it's what to prep for before you get a puppy and what to do after you get a puppy. I kind of it's that's on steroids because again, when I do my writings, I base it upon what are the people just not hearing clearly? They need you to write it a different way so they freaking understand a little bit better, right?
Right.
You know, why shouldn't this wonderful client of mine with her really well trained point, at this point, 18-month-old gorgeous schnauzer, F it up by bringing another male puppy into the situation when this guy's still sowing his wild oats? He's only 18 months old. So the Lead Don't Follow book, first off, any family member that you think or friend even wants to get a dog, it's the pre-read before you get a dog. I think it's if people got it before they even got a dog, you're 10 steps ahead of the game. And from everything from a rescue to meeting a tractor trailer or a shuttle on the side of the road, because that happens. You meet someone along 95 that has rescues and you get handed a dog. It gives you all the different options, but then also anybody who has a puppy, say under a year or even a year and a half, you can open it up and it can kind of meet you where you're at. So did you get a rescue dog? Well, you are probably going to be a little challenged.
Right.
And here's why. Did
Right.
you, when you talked about age of a dog, do you know how many customers of mine, city customers, whatever, bring dogs that they bought in a pet store and they bring it to me and it's 5 months old and they're like, yeah, I got it at a pet store at 4 months old. I'm like, oh, so they couldn't sell it. And this dog's been living in a cage in a pet store with no enrichment. Okay, that's where we're at. We need to train the dog where we're at.
Right.
So it's based on all of my interviews and times with clients of meeting them where they're at and then giving them advice moving forward.
Yeah, and that's what's kind of I would say different because in my judging years around the country, I obviously, no, I shouldn't say obviously, but I fortunately met a lot of breeders and kennel owners because a lot of them are the chapter itself, and that's where the activities are held. And I don't know many of them. I know a few of them that would board dogs, because they had kennel space. But you take in a lot of schnauzers, chihuahuas, Burmese mount, whatever,
Yeah.
name any breed that's not a hunting breed. So that just adds another level of like, oh, that's a different level of skittishness. That's
Yeah.
not that's a whole that's
So
got to help with your overall everything, right?
a running joke I just saw recently is when is the next what do they call them? When is the next dire doodle going to come in? The whole dire wolf
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So
Oh, I'm sure.
yeah, we'll probably be one of the first to train a dire doodle.
You'll
And
get the first overly
yeah,
aggressive dire doodle.
yeah.
I wonder
It'll
if
be
it'll be
cute.
all white. I wonder if it'll be all
I know
white.
it'll be really cute. um,
One story, and this is something that I used to preach to people. And again, from meeting all the people, just like, trainers, I don't think people realize like you hang out with trainers, like you spend the whole winter with other trainers. I can
yeah,
imagine I should just leave you wired like an FBI agent
it's so funny.
for the podcast. I'll just like
Yeah,
leave one of those FBI wires on your collar
yeah.
and then just get all and just listen in my van and go like, holy. But you told a story in the book, and it's just a piece that I want people to hear about. You talked about Doozy's motherhood. Okay,
Yes.
so for people who don't know, Doozy's her German short hair, and how that dog scolded its pups. And
Oh,
when people aren't used to that, and I remember the first litter I had, I grabbed the mom away from it because I thought she was going to kill it.
yeah.
But it's just a total correction without emotion. It
It
just,
is.
to our ears, it sounds like emotion, you know.
Yeah.
But to the puppy immediately gets it. immediately gets it. It's like, okay, sorry,
I mean,
you
Doozy,
know,
it was her. She was a maiden bitch. She was maybe 6 years old, 5 years old, and she she jumps into her whelping box with a raw bone, and I'm like, holy shit. And
yeah,
I'm like, I like literally I stopped breathing because and I was like, I'm not really comfortable with this because if she decides I got dead puppies on my hands, you know?
right, right.
Those puppies tried to come over, and I swear it was the most calculated move that this dog did. She went, okay, class, I'm going to jump in here with something really high value. And when you little asshats try to come over and get it, I'm going to give you levels of appropriate correction. And
Yeah,
first it was a growl. Well, actually, first it was she kept diverting and she kept moving. She'd get up and she'd move. She'd get up and
right,
she was giving them layers. And
right.
I'm like peeling layers of skin off because I'm freaking out, you know? But it was one of the greatest learning experiences for me. And so first she kept turning away, but then you get the persistent pups. Then she starts the growl. Then she starts with teeth. And then it was a and like pins them. They all backed off and watched her.
Yeah.
I think at one point she let him chew on it a little bit. Then she took it and jumped out. And it was like, okay, mark that lesson done.
That's like
It
the
was,
that's
it was
like
fascinating.
that's like I'm gonna pick up the bird in advanced training. Guess what? You're not getting the bird. You're
Yeah.
gonna let me get the bird.
Yeah.
You put them right back in the whelping box when they're a year
Yeah.
old, training
It,
steadiness, let's say.
it was fascinating.
Yeah. I've learned to just ignore the growls uh, because, yeah, it just, in fact, sometimes the puppies will have it's always funny, like the moms, you put like hanging toys in there for the puppies to occupy them and wear them
Yeah.
out a little bit. The moms could care less about that toy. It's, because they're already the adult dog.
Yeah.
And the puppies want something they can't have, and they find out that, oh,
Mom has it.
mom has it, and guess what? Mom's the boss. So
Yeah.
now we're going to bring this right around to what's the problem with kids today, Jennifer?
Oh my.
No, I'm going to say this, and I will throw my own daughters under the bus. When they started having grandkids, when they started having kids, my grandkids, they had what was called a pack and play, and it's like a little portable crib,
Oh yeah.
right? And I said, when I was a kid, our pack and plays were made out of wood and they were 4 feet square or 3.5 feet square, 42 inches square. But my daughters are using it for naps only. There was no crate training, right?
Ah.
And when I was little, my mom would tell the stories because I can remember when my first nephew was born, my older sister, mom would say, leave him in there. Leave him in. He's got to have a space. He's
Yeah.
got to learn to, they got to learn to soothe themselves. And you go into pretty good detail, I think, talking about the value of the crate training.
Oh my God. I know. I almost overkill the crate,
Yeah,
you
but
know?
you just can't overkill it. It's
Yeah.
so important. It's like you say in there, like, you're bringing this puppy home, whatever it is, if it's 7, if it's 12 weeks, whatever it is, and you are now they might as well have gone to the moon. That'd be like you and me
Yes.
stepping onto the moon going, hey,
Yes.
what are we gonna do, Jennifer?
Yeah.
So, but that crate goes back to them. It's just their place, it's their thing. People just don't use it enough and long enough,
Yeah.
and you
Yep.
kind of mention in there, like, when you start letting that dog out, like when you start giving them a little leeway. So
Yep.
I want to throw a trick question at you because you were careful not to put timelines in it because you can't say 3 weeks.
Yes. Yeah. Rick Smith said that. Don't put timelines into things. The time it takes is the time it takes.
Right. And but people want the timeline,
Yeah.
want to know if
Well,
they're on time or they want to know if they're behind the 8 ball. And
look
that's
at our freaking attention span these days. We've been so taught. I mean, my attention span to even read an email, God forbid an email is longer than, a 1 minute read. We're on to the next. We're on to
Mhm.
the next. So, yeah.
And that crate training, I'll go out on a limb. I'm not a dog trainer. I've never charged anybody a penny for dog training, and I wouldn't expect anybody to pay me for it because I'm not that good. But if I could do anything, I would like emphasize, look, it's going to only be, let's just say a year. Let's just say a year. I want your dog in that crate more than you think you want it in the crate. If I
Yes.
could get that point across to them, that dog would be just in general, whether it's a hunting dog or a house dog, it would be, it would have a better head on its shoulders
Yeah.
from that, oh, it's not my turn.
I know I've mentioned this before in our talks, but it's worth repeating again and again. One of the biggest mistakes that people make in raising puppies is over satiating them and keeping them awake.
Yeah.
And go Google right now, AKC website, AKC, and not that giving them clout or whatever, but a growing puppy requires 20 hours of sleep a day in the first 5 months because in 6 months, a puppy grows to almost adult size.
Right.
Us human knuckleheads, it's 18 years,
Right.
right?
Right.
Or more, or more.
Or more.
A puppy, and so the growth, you can almost hear it happening. And not only the physical growth, the big thing is the cognitive growth, the emotional, the mental growth. And when you don't encourage a puppy and enable it to sleep in a safe place, which is a crate, which is in the crate, door shut, where they
Yeah.
have no responsibilities. Because I actually delved even more into this, and there's been studies, and it's really interesting. Humans are 8 hours of sleep, and we have this specific, and I'm not going to talk too much about it because I didn't read and I'm not a student enough about it, but it's worth mentioning. So if those listeners are really interested in this, it's a little bit of validation of why this long duration of crate time is so important. And it's not 20 hours straight, but
Right.
we get an 8 hour sleep and we hit a REM cycle, right? So we hit this REM cycle and we have a longer REM cycle. We have this long straight sleep. Dogs do like naps. And when they nap, they have a little REM and a little REM and a little REM. And they don't get the same REM that we get. Therefore, they have to sleep a lot longer.
Right.
Okay. And so there's
Right.
sleep studies about dogs. It's really fascinating. So by putting a puppy in a crate, you're helping them engage their physical and emotional off switch. A really common thing is people go, oh, he just fell asleep on the floor. He's fine. All right, what happens when you get up and you go into another room? He
Right.
follows you. You wait often. You wake him up. Now he either owns you or needs you. He's your shadow, and you woke him up.
Right.
And now what you're creating is this dog that's either owning you or subservient to you. And whereas you should be able to move all around your house, and his job is to sleep. I wish that people would point at me at times and say, at my most stressful times of the day, hey, Jen, go sleep,
Right.
go chill, right?
Yeah.
So so it's almost like what most people see as inhumane of creating them is
Right.
actually the most humane thing you can do. I don't have kids, you've got kids, you've got grandkids. You know darn well what it's like when the kids are overly tired.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. It's
Oh, they're nightmares, right? They're out
right.
of their minds. Most puppies I get are oversatiated and out of their minds, and it becomes embedded in their neurotic muscle memory.
Right. Because
And
when they learn it, they think it's right, right? If that's what
yeah,
you're giving them, if that's what you're feeding them, then you're kind of saying, "Oh, I want you in a sad way. I want you to be neurotic."
yeah,
You said something, and how many times have you heard it in your life? A gazillion more than me. Oh, this dog has a good off switch. I'm like, all dogs, if they were crate trained right and raised right, of course they have an off switch.
yeah,
They, that is like when somebody says, "Oh, he's got such a good off switch," I'm
yep.
like, "Well, you did something right. It's not a good
Yeah.
off switch. It's just that he doesn't. He has a balance. He has a balance
Even
of
even the average canine is typically upwards of 16 hours of sleep a day. They're
oh,
loafers. Canines are loafers, and they do their best hunting on an empty stomach when they're hungry,
yep,
right?
just like a
And they're
wolf.
loafers. They're not going to go hunt after, with a full belly or whatever. They're gonna nap and everything. So, yeah, it's just the one thing people get unfortunately wrong quite a bit.
And I was the last thing I was looking at this afternoon, and I put a note on here. If it's in there, forgive me. Using a leash early, not teaching them heel, but that point, it goes back to the quiet cue. The getting that dog used to a leash and a collar early.
Yeah,
That's another thing. My dear daughter takes that collar off that dog when she was raising it. Like, well, it's in the house. It doesn't need the collar on. I'm like, no, it does need the collar. And it couldn't mind having about a 3 foot piece of leash dragging behind it
Yes.
to give them little things that there's no verbalization. It's just a little stop, and the dog, oh, I gotta stop, you know?
One of my favorite training tools for a puppy, say under 3 months, even under 4 months, is a buckle collar. So they've got their ID buckle collar as they grow. And it's a buckle collar. I don't even like adjustable collars because they can slip and all this stuff. So I like a true like collar with a buckle on it. That's usually a biothane or a leather or something like that.
And
And
they make them skinny and small for puppies.
exactly.
Yeah.
And a 15-foot cotton webbed leash that's a 3/4 inch wide.
Okay.
Okay. And that just becomes your constant recall. So even if I had a puppy in here hanging out while during this podcast, not that I would because my focus needs to be on the podcast, but if I was maybe reading and I was able to train the puppy, right now I'm in my barn. I got my saddles. There's some shampoo over there. There's a electronic right there. The leash would give me the opportunity to instantly correct with a point of contact, not a vocal.
Right.
And it could also help me enforce putting that puppy on a bed or recalling it. I got a Brittany puppy down south this year. This is hysterical. She was delivered to me mid-April and I raised her. She was delivered to me mid-January. I had her through early April. This is hysterical. I could barely catch her with a 20-foot check cord in my back play yard because she knew how to play keep away. She was like an expert keep away, and she was 5 months old.
Oh, oh,
And these owners did a magician of a job teaching her how to run away from you as a game. And they flew to Michigan to get her. She's like Hall of Fame Brittany Lines field trial dog. And this dog knew how to flip you off and run. And they would never have had that if they would have done that early puppy stuff.
right,
You
right.
know, you can't
Still
chase
would
him.
have-
You can't
you
teach him
still
to
would
go
have
bolt
had
under the.
all of its instincts would have been there, pointing, retrieving, search,
Yeah.
but the behavior wouldn't have been there.
Yeah, she was one of the scariest flight risks of a puppy I've ever had. So one of the first things I did, and I don't usually do this, but I did my leash work with her. I had to teach her a recall because if at any point she got loose, they told me, she's like, oh, she'll run off. I'm like, she's 5 months old, she'll run off. They're like, yeah, we've had her to preserve, she'll run off. Like, and then they were telling me like they had like groups of people trying to get her and laying down on the ground and like playing dead, and like this dog knew. And I'm going, oh my god, like I don't need this for my career. That this dog slipped her collar and now she's like loose in Florida.
Right.
So I did leash work over the course of 2 weeks, and then I taught her an e-collar recall. And even the first time I cut her loose, I cut her loose with check cords. Cut her loose with e-collar check cords, and she kind of was honest. The first time I cut her loose, it was right when I got back from Alabama from the Nationals, and she was with me then. I'm like, I'm going to take the collar off her. I just pulled in from Alabama. She's with my pack. I cut her loose. She looked at me, and she went running the fence line. She was going to run to Georgia. And I just was like, oh my God. So you don't want to teach them. I mean, yeah, for a field trial dog, that would have been great if you were in Oklahoma and you could go run her down on a horse or an ATV on the prairies. That's fine. That's great. But not, she lived in Palm Beach.
Yeah, that's not, and that could go back to your book, finding a dog for what you need and what you're going to do, and people still make that mistake constantly.
A neat family who actually live part of the year on a farm in New Jersey and hunt, but she's a lot of dog.
Right.
Yeah, they could have used half the genetics.
Yeah, they could have used half that dog. Well, you could always maybe take two of the legs off, maybe
Yeah, right. Yeah.
put a roller on the back.
But each of these dogs and each of these situations tell me a story. I mean, I recall being out there like at night in my slippers, letting this dog out, and my play yard is maybe 25 foot deep and 30 to 40 foot wide, fenced in.
Yeah.
And I couldn't catch her. Like I had to like strategically catch her on a 20-foot check cord. Yeah. That's fun, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm going to take a big pass on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is a complete rabbit hole, but I want you to analyze it with me. I don't think we've ever done this before. I like a dog that if it did get loose, it would come to anybody. Just like somebody could walk in here and steal any four dogs in this kennel. Somebody
Yeah,
could come over here, say, "Come on, you want to go to try?" And they'll go with them.
I agree. I do agree.
That's
I
what I
don't like the
want for a
dog that
dog. But
will only go to one person.
do
Yeah.
you think that's a dog personality thing, or do you think that's another thing that could have been socialized better and could have been exposed better? Because there's a lot of dogs that it
Well,
could have been out without food for days. It's not going to come to you. It's
well,
literally,
but that's a different story because it's kind of a known fact that when a dog does get loose, they become feral really quickly. They won't even come to their owners. Um, there's a fight or flight that happens because there's some, whether they were in an accident, they got loose, then they had a panic go on. There's a lot of, I've read stories about this, but I've also experienced it because I've had customer dogs get loose before.
yeah,
I had a dog here 3 years ago that brand new client guy drops off his German short hair pointer. He wasn't even home yet. And he's like, oh, the dog's fine. It jumped our 6 foot fence in a flash, a short hair, and it was gonzo. And we spent all day chasing it. We had sight on it, and it actually had a wonder lead on it too. It was pretty funny. So it's running the whole neighborhood with a wonder lead. And we called him. He was supposed to fly out somewhere. I was like, dude, your dog just scaled a 6 foot fence and won't come to anybody.
yeah.
He came, it wouldn't even come to him because it was in such a flight mode at this point. But
Dog just got
they're
frazzled, sounds like.
they when they get frazzled, and this is like the scary thing, like this is why you create a dog in a vehicle, because if the crash doesn't kill them, going through the window and then being in navigating traffic, almost getting hit by cars and running away from a crash scene, those dogs instantly become like survival mode.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I can see
you
that.
know, it's why you see on a lot of posters when people are like dog loose, don't chase, because it only adds fuel to their fire. They're in fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was a different situation that or just an explanation. But no, Ron, if you came over, if you called any one of my dogs, they would come to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And
know,
is that just because I don't want to say you or I or people have had a lot of dogs are doing something right? Or is some of that the breed? Not the breed, but the breed
well,
behind it.
I mean, certainly, there's one person dogs, so you get some of these border or Australian shepherds, Malinois, like German shepherds. They really are loyal to their people, and they're not as happy-go-lucky about coming to another person.
Right.
But I deal with this like in my clinics all the time. Like I'll host a clinic, and if I have somebody that wants to call Betty or Phoebe or Philly to them, and if they're just like, Betty, here, I go, no, target her with your eyes. So
Yeah.
you're pointing her out and you're making the connection and point to her and draw her in so that you're showing her your leadership and
Right.
you're giving her a command. And even though I'm standing right here, she's supposed to listen to commands and I'm going to support it. And
Right.
so if I can talk the person through making sure that they have the leadership and the confidence to enforce the recall, I want my dogs to listen to that person. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I also know that if I was out on my horse and I had my pack of dogs loose and somebody went to be like, here, he tried to call my dogs, I could so easily go, no, here, and move on. And they're not
Right.
going to
Right.
come to that person.
Right.
But I really, from an obedience factor and a safety factor, because I don't need this ego that my dogs only listen to me. If somebody else instructs them to do something for the dog's own darn safety, I want them to listening to people.
Yeah.
People are the leaders.
Yeah, and I guess I think about that. I couldn't bring that back to when all of them were young, but I guess just got to be from maybe from hunting with other people, having your friend get the dog, hey, get that dog out, put this dog back up in the truck for me. It's just such a peace of mind when your dog
Can
could,
handle for other people.
exactly and
Yeah.
be handled by other people. Like,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know,
So I really do think that that's a sociability issue where the dogs are socialized even better for it and prepped for it and worked by other people. And other people don't really ever train my dogs like I train my dogs,
right.
but I can hand one of my trained dogs to somebody else. And if I talk them through the leadership skills, my
Yeah.
dogs will comply.
Yeah,
But
like
I also, it's a,
you could give me one of your dogs to go hunt if you said, "Hey, could you take this dog out for an hour?" You say,
it would stay with you.
how do
Yeah.
I talk to?" He's not going to run away because
Yeah.
a different person's taking him to do his favorite thing in the world, which is hunt, you know?
I will say though, if you went to the field to 11 o'clock and I said, here, take Philly to go hunt, and I went to take one of my other dogs and went 2 o'clock,
Yeah,
guess what?
yeah,
They're coming to me, you
right,
know?
right,
But if
right.
I went, yeah, you do drive to your spot, you make sure you love on them and just form that relationship. And you do your, I love my tailgate check too. Like, so when I get the dogs out, I'm like, okay, we're going to connect. I'm going to do, heel sit, love on you a little bit, make sure, I'm your leader for right now and
Yeah,
follow that.
yeah. Yeah, I've lent dogs back in the day, people going out west, and I couldn't, when I had a job and a career. And I remember one guy, a good friend of mine, asked if he could borrow. He said, "I need some more dog power." And I said, "Take Desi." And he came over here and he took Desi, and they were playing with Desi in the hotel, playing fetch down the aisles with her, taking her out, admittedly without a leash on, but like this dog just like, "Oh, you're just like my owner."
Yeah.
It was like that's a dog that I like owning because
Yeah.
God forbid something happened to us, you know. What I'm saying, I guess, a really good dog that's well bred, got a level head. If you died tomorrow, could go to my house and his tail would wag and he'd be waiting for dinner and looking for what are we doing
Yeah.
next? You know what I
They
mean?
do. Yeah. And that is, that's a dog that's a dog that is very well rounded and socialized.
Yeah.
When you get somebody that's so connected to their dog and it's like it could be a Labrador Retriever that the dog's always with them. It needs them. It sleeps with them. It goes everywhere with them. Unfortunately, that dog suffers the consequences a little bit because it's almost the person is codependent on the dog. They
Yeah.
create a codependency,
Yeah.
and that can really lessen the fulfillment of the dog because that person's going to go away. That person might need to go to the hospital, and that dog still needs to live a fulfilled life, even
Yeah.
if it's with a week with somebody else. You know?
So, we covered a little bit in Upland Institute on socialization, and you just made me think of something. Maybe my dogs weren't all that great, but because I was so goofy and was always at the Wednesday or Saturday training days from when they were little, they probably did get used to a lot of people handling them, a lot of
Yeah,
like not overstimulation, but like, oh, oh, somebody comes up, can I pet your dog? Nowadays people ask if they can pet your dog, which is smart,
it's very smart.
very smart, especially when it's a kid. But I might not have had the best dogs in my head now. I'm like, oh, I might have been accidentally doing everything right just
Yeah,
by bringing them around a lot of other people. And when you're those NAVHDA training days, you know, you're always using help. Somebody holds my dog back, when you're first learning to train. Like you hold a dog, I'm going to go flush the bird. Like I was
yeah,
accidentally getting a dog that would come to anybody because it was like, oh yeah, everybody here is the same as my owner.
yeah.
But
I think it really helps for a dog's kind of resume to be fulfilled like that. And, I host graduations and I host quiet Q clinics and boot camps regularly. I've got 4 planned this summer at QK. And I always have my personal dogs there, and my personal dogs are to be lender training tools,
yeah,
especially for kids, because it helps build their confidence.
yeah,
Or if there's a husband and wife team and the husband's working the dog, I say, go grab this dog. And I have them work the piss out of my dogs. And my dogs are like kind of looking at me like, could you save me? Because especially when kids have my dogs do like all this stuff. And I think it's great for the handler's confidence and it's great for the dog,
yeah.
you know?
So I know, and you cover this in the book. You cover basically A to Z, really, and getting a. It really it could have this book could have a whole bunch of different titles. It's a catchy title because the lesson you even in Quiet Q is you got to be the leader, not the follower. So I can see
Yeah.
why you named that. It should have been like before you buy a dog, right? Or my first puppy. Or
Yeah.
there's about 6 titles I could think of that you could have named this because
Yeah.
you really cover just those common sense questions that people, and it's because they've asked you those questions for 30 years.
Over and still
Yeah.
continue to make
It's
the errors. And I say, you know, I I get a lot of validation when I can help somebody and I almost can predict something. And I had a really unfortunate situation happen with somebody who reached out to me in January this year. And this just goes to like my experience of kind of being able to lead you into what could possibly happen. And this couple, and they had worked with me, I think, years before, and they had a Chesapeake Bay Retriever. And let's face it, Chessies are hard dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Chessies have an oily coat and are beasts in cold water. I love to go waterfowl, sea duck hunting with somebody else's Chessie and not my own dogs.
Right,
And
right.
Chessies were bred on the Eastern Shore from, correct me if I'm wrong or but for market gunners with an element to protect the market of pile of ducks. So there was an element of guard and aggressiveness built into the breed to
Oh, yeah.
protect the ducks, right?
Yeah.
So that's nothing new. So can we say, how do you train a Chessie with a 2x4? Are they hard? Yeah, it's part of what makes a Chessie so good. Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm complimenting a Chesapeake, but I also know the challenges because they tend to be a one-person dog.
Mm-hmm.
They traditionally do not board well with us. They could be friendly as could be. You put them in a kennel run and they're like Jaws.
Yeah.
Not all of them, so don't get offended if you have a great Chessie, but people. But so this people reached out because they had a Chessie. Now they hadn't had a dog in years. Now they wanted to get another, and there suddenly was an opportunity to rescue, to adopt somebody's Chessie that lived in a family, but was having a baby, didn't have the time for it, whatever. It was 4 years old.
Yeah.
And I sent them this very thoughtful email of, okay, here's how here's their demeanor. Here's some potential pitfalls that you can follow, that you can have.
Right.
They can get aggressive.
Right.
You can deal with this, you can deal with that. And I really laid out this scenario and I said, I want you can give it a try. You can walk it, how is it around food? How's it going to be with you? And I gave them every soup to nuts, good cases to worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
They were super appreciative. They met her. They loved her. They brought her home. They took her hiking. They had a great first day with her. Next day, she sent the wife to the hospital.
Yeah.
And someone at my kennel, she went, "Oh my God, you called that word for word in an email." And I said, "It's because I've been down that road before."
Right.
And this dog in the Chessie's mind was uprooted from her family, was put in a different situation, had a great first day for a hike, and it was over food. And it had its food dish, and it went to go, it's not a bad dog, but there's an element that you have to understand and accept and appreciate with specific breeds that's a possibility.
Right.
And so again, my writings in my book, it's not opinion based.
Right. Right.
I've been down that road, and the last thing I want people to do is get hurt by dogs or spend $7,500 on a designer dog and not know that they bought a dog with bad hips or stuff like that. I want to try to share and teach as much as I've learned the hard way.
Yeah. But your subtitle is The Human Guide to the Puppy Mind. It's still going to go over some people's heads, but you still explain it. But I look at it like this should be a book that you read, even if you never get the quiet cue, even if you don't become a good trainer, you could be saved by a dozen mistakes by reading this book.
Yeah. I would say that anybody even experienced as you are, you might learn, 10 new things from this book.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it's from a stupid story that I told, there's just learnings to be had because I've had the good fortune in, going on over 25 years of training to train thousands upon thousands of dogs.
Yeah.
And they've been my best teachers.
Right. Right.
You
couldn't go to school and learn to be a dog trainer.
And Ron, my first thing you said when you saw me today was, "Why don't I have my sling on?"
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because what have the dogs taught me? Well, it's been 25 years of people handing me untrained dogs upwards of 150 pounds and stuff, and I had a bad shoulder. It's been building and building, and I got shoulder surgery a week ago today.
Yeah, and you still don't have a sling on it because you know better.
No, so I dodged a bullet. I'm sure a lot of listeners have gotten rotator cuff surgery before, and my MRI showed a partial tear and a lot of arthritis and labral fraying and stuff like that in my shoulder. And I was having a lot of problems with my shoulder, use wise and pain and sleeping and strength and everything else. So I prepped myself for the past 5 months. I've been working out with that personal trainer I told you about, the human
Yeah.
predator pack mule.
Yeah.
And I've been doing I worked out really hard and got really strong with my shoulder all winter. And I went in last Thursday for my surgery, and I was ready to be in a sling for 4 weeks and 4 to 6 month rotator cuff. I had it all planned out, right? And it turns out that my rotator cuff wasn't torn enough to need to be repaired. They just needed to go in and clean the joint. And it was like a week in a sling, and it's 6 weeks of careful mobility
Right.
work. So I
Your
dodged a bullet.
your sling is just your wonder lead point of contact, just to remind you
Yeah.
that they were in there with the scalpel the other day.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know, a week ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was pretty down and out until Tuesday this week. I tried going back to work on Tuesday, and I just wasn't feeling it. But yesterday was a much better day, and today, and every day is going to get better. But I feel good. But it's overuse injury from hauling on untrained dogs, and
Yeah.
it's yeah.
Well, I
It's
mean,
total.
nobody gets into the dog training world and says, you know what, I think I'm going to be a CrossFitter for 4 years first. So the first
Yeah.
time, the first time a 120-pound lab yanks your shoulder out and it hurts, it ain't
Yeah.
going to get better when you get older. It ain't going to get better.
No.
But so the book, I will tell listeners, the book is not going to fix that, because our human mind, we need to get somebody else to write a book on what we don't do for our bodies. But that's
Yeah.
not what this book is about. This is about what we do for our dogs, our puppies. But like I love it because it literally covers how to find one, where to find one, not where, but how to look for one, how to build a relationship with a breeder, how to ask yourself questions, you know, and
Yep.
maybe the only thing you could have done is in a few spots, it's funny, you won't see this like in a novel or lyrical book. You'll capitalize a word when you want somebody to go like, I'm getting this point across to you. Like only you can prevent forest fires.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you throw some capitals in there, and people like, I want people like, oh, Jennifer's like doozy in the kennel. You listen to me right now. I said
Yeah.
you know.
So I specifically did it if you like thumb through like go to page 87. Do you have the book there?
Yep.
And you see on the lower right hand there's like that pretty scroll that I chose, and then the shaded portion.
Yeah.
That's like the standout. So there's a lot of, that's like the standout. So those are the things that you can at any point open it up and like
Well, I'll put it in a different way. Reading the book, it's like reading a book about how to do things, what to do, what not to do. But in your standouts, that's like sitting with the professor after class saying,
yeah, it's the
what did
cliff
you
notes.
Yeah, there you go. It's like, what did you mean by that? So
Yeah.
it's like an anecdotal, something that relates to you as the reader
Yeah.
above the text. Because, reading anything, people get glazy eyed,
Yeah.
not lazy, but glazy. And
Lazy eyed. Yeah,
then,
you're right.
your
Yeah.
anecdotes are in here, and right where they should be. And you have like stories a couple pages
Yeah.
later. Many years ago, I recall a puppy that just got terrified by the vacuum. Those things relate to people.
Yes. Yeah.
If you just have the chapter on desensitizing your pup, well, you talk about an actual case. It's like you kind of quote a case study along
Yes.
with telling people what to do. So let me
There-
ask you what to do. My wife's corgi would eat the vacuum if it had a chance. Eat it
Yep.
just because it's making that noise. You could park that vacuum there, it would sleep next to it. Just turn it on, and I think you'd get bit if you tried to get in between it. We have to put it in another room. It's embarrassing for this is like her third corgi is my only one I really like, but it's bonker. Like, why would it? Now, I know you didn't see the dog, so it's like that.
Oh, I can tell you right now because I know exactly what's going on.
Is it? Is it a noise? Is it a frequency?
No. So this is her third corgi, you said, right?
Yeah.
This is the one that you like.
I like this one because it actually listens to me. Yeah.
Okay. And So were the other ones at all like that, or
Oh
tell me
yeah, I
about the
mean,
other ones.
not as bad, but they would, you couldn't play. I mean, they chased the ball. They got in the way of things. They were definitely herdy.
Okay.
You couldn't use like a when the kids had like a electric Jeep with the one corgi we had came up and ripped the tire right off of it, because it was moving.
Yep.
I just didn't know if it's the noise or if it's the moving of the thing, but it's crazy. It's
Well, it's really not, because they were really good. When you get a herding breed, they want to herd. And when they don't get to herd, the herding instinct can get intensified. And a herding dog not only herds by their body, they then herd with intensity, then they herd with their teeth. You've seen dogs hanging off cows' tails.
yeah, yeah.
I've seen border collies when I've been with a great horse guy friend of mine, that his his the cattle would kick the border collie, and the border collie would be like knocked over. They could break a jaw, they'd be bleeding, and they'd get up and they do it again. That's no different than the beauty that we have in our pointing dogs and our retrievers. They're so intensely bred to do a job.
Yeah,
So
they kill
it's
themselves
not.
for retrieve, basically. Yeah.
We have one customer with a corgi currently, and the dog's got all kind of aggression.
Ooh,
So, oh, yeah, because, well, really, your corgi's aggressive to the vacuum.
right, right.
Well, the kids kind of tease and play, and this corgi gets aggressive. And the thing is that it's the ultimate, it's the herding genetic, it's the herding desire, and it gets intensified, exemplified because they do nip. And those dogs are often bored. So they take things to a different level. And a lot of it comes from frustration. So here's a really easy fix. And if I swing by your place this year on my way out to the prairies, which I might do, we can film it and do an exercise, but you can also try this. Put a leash on it. And do you use a wonder lead at all or not?
No, I actually don't. I've
It's
got
okay.
slip leads, but yeah,
So put a slip lead on it, because I want you to have some kind of a bite control, like with
right,
a slip release,
right,
and not an e-collar or whatever. And put the dog on a leash. I don't care if it's not trained. It doesn't matter if it's not leash trained.
right.
And just start to push the vacuum first without turning it on, and control the vacuum. Own the vacuum. So the moment the dog tries to go for it, manage the dog and give it a upwards tug to say, you're not allowed to do that in my presence. I own the vacuum. And you're going to see the dog go, huh? Because what you're doing, you're just stepping in and saying, that's not your job. It's your vacuum. You can do whatever you want with it. Okay. Now I'm going to get you vacuuming. Your wife called me and asked me to help do this so that you'd vacuum. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
but all you need to do is control the dog in the presence of what they want to own, because he just wants to own the vacuum, and he wants to own it so much that he wants to attack it, because that's the
'cause it looks
frustration
like
coming out.
it's like the 1% of this dog that if you saw that, you would think this dog was Cujo.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he'll come up to strangers. He's like I always said the other corgis were more corgi like because they were just independent.
Yeah.
They would just like wander around. I think they were looking for something to herd.
Yep.
This one's got more cooperation and likes,
It literally is probably a drug in his vein
yeah,
every time he gets to practice that behavior.
he's
So
done it
Ron's
enough. He's done
so
it enough.
Ron's job is to stop the behavior. But
Yeah.
it's a shot for him. It's a shot of adrenaline, and
Mm,
it's a release. And anytime a dog is doing something unhealthy, I'm going to step in and help manage it.
yeah.
In my video, actually, I think maybe one of the clips, did you saw the clip I think we sent you where the dog was afraid of the leaf blower?
Yeah, yeah, the leaf blower.
And so the dog was like, ah, because I let the dog be reactive and I was being a passive partner with the dog.
Yeah.
Well, when we repeated the exercise and I was the leader, the dog walked right by it and was like, my job isn't to be afraid of the leaf blower. My job is to walk with you.
Yeah. See, I told you I wasn't a dog trainer.
It's
Told you.
okay.
I don't know
It's
why I
okay.
wouldn't have figured that one out, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I said, it's one of them things. When I see it, I just think, oh my God, this dog's almost perfect. Well, problem is it's been chasing the it's been attempting to chase the vacuum for 4 years. So it's
They
going to be
can still stop.
it's
They
going to
can
be
be
an
undone if you really want it. But then, you know, sometimes there's people, whether you, your wife, and maybe you don't, but maybe I'm also making a prediction that at some point you grab the vacuum and now you're effing with the dog, like, hey, hey.
I'm sure a couple times it was like stop, stop, which just means go, go to a dog.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
keep trying to vacuum and it got that satisfaction. It's like, oh, this is so much
Yeah,
freaking fun.
it's a high for them.
Yeah.
It really is. It's like a retriever chasing a ball or a short hair on a freaking porcupine, you know? Like it's a high.
God, it'd be tough to be a herding dog and live in a house, wouldn't it?
I think herding dogs have some of the toughest jobs living in a household.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it, I'd love nothing more than to, like you say, nip at the heels of some sheep or some cows
yeah.
and just be complete, like get it like our dogs running through the field. It's like they don't they find the bird because their nose is connected to their pointing instinct. And I don't mean the dogs that just run beeline and run away, but I mean when you see a dog that searches, a good hunting dog could search for hours and not find a bird. He's not unhappy.
Yeah.
That's his cocaine. That's his adrenaline to
It
just
is. So at our facility, when we see cattle dogs, Australian Shepherds are unfortunately really popular. And for a while, the mini Australian Shepherds were real. Oh my God, they were really popular for a while. We were seeing strings of mini Australian Shepherds, and they were really good herding and nipping dogs. And even most of the Aussies that we have now, and there was one on the line today. And if a dog came near him, he was going to be nippy. He I don't look at it as a bad dog. I look at it as an undersatiated, underutilized dog.
right. And it
You
goes back
know?
to getting you might like the look of a dog, but think about what that dog is bred to do because
Yeah.
most of these dogs have minimum of 100 years of doing something, right?
You're not changing it.
If we're not changing it,
Yeah.
you can try to
And
step on it, but
I try to help my customers and say, you don't need to get a flock of geese or a herd of animals, but you do need to figure out a way to delve deep into that dog's brain so that it feels, emotionally satiated, and it feels like I'm like really busy. In fact, since my surgery, the first 5 days sucked. I mean, I was like in tears at a point because I don't feel bad enough to be laying around, but unless I rest my shoulder for 6 weeks, I can get a frozen shoulder. So I
right.
have to rest. Well, I'm chomping at the bit. And
Yeah.
like my husband's looking at me, and we come down to the barn, and I'm like wide eyed. I was like, oh my God, I could scrub, I could clean, I could be planting, I could be raking right now. And he's like, tone it down, tone it down. And I'm frustrated,
Did he
you
send you
know?
to your crate?
Yeah, he did. He said, here, drink this, girl. Yeah, he sent me to the bourbon bar.
That's your crate. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Um, but we also just chatted. I mean, I just got back. I mean, I've been back 2 weeks now from my winter down south, and I had another phenomenal winter. I have the great fortune from working so hard with my kennel and building my kennel that this was my 17th year that I go down south for 3 months to be with the best of the best in the industry. And I rode the Continental Field Trial. These are the big shooting dog circuits.
Yeah.
I rode the Continental. I rode the Masters. I rode other ones. I scouted for my own dogs at the AKC Pointing Dog Nationals in Alabama. That was really fun. Lots of retriever training, Betty Cocker. So had a really enriching 3 months, and I'm back home now and ready to hit the ground running.
Ready to take care of schnauzers to Great Danes to your own German short hairs and lap.
Yeah, we have a
You
new
have
gun dog class coming in on Monday, so we've got like 20 gun dogs all coming in for our round of training.
Now, when you say that, does that mean they're going to be there for so many months, or is that a a course that they're there for X amount of
Sure.
days? What do you,
So this particular one starting Monday is
one
this.
second, Jennifer. While you answer my question, I'm going to walk to my kegerator, but I'll hear you.
All right. You walk to your kegerator.
I'm going to walk.
So the do you want me to still keep teaching?
Yeah, keep teaching.
Okay. So the 6-week course that's coming up is our foundation program. And that's dogs, young dogs that are coming in to get their foundational training. And we do have dogs that are here now and dogs that are arriving for intermediate and advanced training. And those dogs are getting pile work for handling. They're getting more steadiness work, bird work, and stuff like that. So it all depends on which dog is coming and what we're gonna work with.
So they're not all, sorry. Oh, that beer tasted really good.
Yeah, baby.
They're not all 6-month dogs coming. They're all different levels.
Yeah, 6 weeks. So 6 week foundation program.
Right. So they're not all the same age. They could be coming but they're coming for the foundation.
Mhm.
Is that just
Yeah.
making it easier as a kennel to work on one type of thing without having to go into the water one day and the
Yeah, I love since I started having all these new dogs arrive on one day because you start all in the patience line the first day and you get rid of all the crap in the first 3 days, the digging, the barking, the whatever, and they just learn point of contact on the patience line the first day, and then you really start getting stuff done. So week 1 to 1.5 is leash, then week 1.5 to 2 into 3 is e-collar conditioning, and bird introduction. It's a balance of the obedience work and then the field work. So they get bird development, e-collar conditioning, fetch training, questing in the field, check cording work, stuff like that. It's like,
that really makes I was asking it because I'm trying to get people to paint a picture of what's coming into your kennel, but I never thought about when you say all on the same day, they all get on, you call it the patience line. Most people call it a tie-out stake or a
sure.
chain gang.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to use the name chain. You can use the word cable gang, but that would be an advertisement for a company who
Okay.
who contacted me this year.
Okay.
But you're right. Of course, you're right. But if you had 3 dogs and you got them used to the cable, and then the next week 3 more dogs came in, then you got 3 dogs pulling and acting like a fool, and then those calm down, and then you're going to add 2 more. It makes sense to just say, guess what? We're all like, it's like boot camp. Like we all got
Yeah.
our heads shaved, and we all get a uniform.
Yeah, exactly. So probably one of the next best foundational steps in patience and composure training after your crate stuff is the patience line.
Yeah.
And so it's not a tie out stake because I do own tie out stakes. I got plenty of them in my dog truck along with patience lines. Um, the thing about a tie out stake and the ones that like Steve Snell sells and stuff like that, they have a good purpose because they're really easy. It's one stake, you put it in, but the chain that comes with it is typically about 36 inches long. And
Yeah.
the thing is a dog can really practice to running around in circles really good. And I
Right.
don't like that.
Right.
So when my dogs go on a true patience line, it's only maybe 18 to 22 inches. And the only way that they're really comfortable is to lay down and relax. So they learn to go point of contact and lay down and relax.
Right.
And I love to call something like what it is. Like I don't call it the force fetch. I call it the conditioned retrieve. Because if I'm really doing my job right, I'm conditioning the retrieving program. I don't have to, doesn't have to be, have to be
Yeah.
forcing it. And I think from a sensitivity level, as far as like chain gang, I'd rather call it a patience line because I think that it does just that. It builds patience and composure.
Yeah.
So for most of my career, I took dogs any day, any time. And now doing these 6 week programs, the dogs can learn so much better, more quickly. And from a training aspect, it's so much easier to have that class that arrives and learns systematically because our results every day are measurable. Like we take detailed notes, we make videos, and every day we do measurable results with the dog. Super
Wow.
cool.
How many people work on that? Like, if you had, how many dogs will be coming in at one time for this?
So I do a 10 dogs to 1 trainer ratio
Okay.
is
So,
typical.
but does one trainer take care of all of them, or do you all help each other in the
We
process?
all work together as a team.
Yeah. Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
So if I'm off working a dog and one of mine's going crazy, a trainer's going to step in and
Right.
help to correct it. It's really best to work together as a team. And then the dog also learns to learn from a variety of people. Every handler at our kennel, every person who works there, they're a canine handler because they're doing enrichment programs with them. They're doing all kind of stuff. So the dogs, I don't want them to just listen to one voice and one demeanor. I want them to listen to all the humans. Like we talked about earlier, like I want my dogs to listen to you.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So it's even better for them than listening to one person.
Yeah. Yeah. We we have a rule that gets broken so often it just drives me nuts. At Wednesday, our training group will start up on Wednesdays. Started up this Wednesday. I didn't go. I went to a RGS, imagine this Birds and Brew thing. So I picked the beer.
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. So I blue mooned myself last night. And but I tell everybody, put your dog. We have what you would call patience line. I built it years ago. It's still I made it out of good chain, good brass latches, and it's staked out in a couple spots. But the other dog can feel the other dog's pulling. They don't have a
Yep.
lot of room to pull, and there is no pivot, so that does. You're right. It doesn't create the tie out stake is great for your trained hunting dog when you go somewhere and you want to feed it and take care of the truck. Put them on a tie out stake,
Yes.
but for a puppy, right? A puppy, it gives them over something to just like, oh, I could run in circles. But
Yeah.
I can't even get some people to do that with their dog. They just want to keep walking with it on the leash. Like they're skipping an opportunity to teach this dog a little, it's not my turn.
It's not your turn. It's one of the best things to build patience into them. Um, I start out my Monday night classes May 3rd. I do walking classes at QK, and from like 4 to 5:45 it's puppy and all obedience dogs. So even if you wanted to start training your gun dog, we want to start with obedience, so you do that. And
Right.
then the 6 o'clock class is gun dog training. And it just reminded me, because what you said to RGF, I wrote an optional after the training class, we're going to do beer, bourbon, bird dogs, and ballads.
Nice.
A Q&A with Jennifer just to hang out, everything from wild bird hunting to gear to first aid kits, stories, and tales. And I wrote TAILS,
Nice. Nice.
Um, so no, and I've offered these classes. I haven't done them in 2 years, but I used to offer them all the time, and it was just open, come in Monday night classes.
Mhm.
Um, and the a big balance of it, there's the patience lines all over. So some people had two dogs, they go put both their dogs on, they'd work one dog, whatever, and it's just getting the reps and the routine in with your dog. It's great
Yeah.
practice.
And how many times have you seen somebody that goes somewhere and I'm not saying I've never owned one of these dogs, but you want to take one dog hunting and you leave one in the truck. You don't need to you'll never lose your truck because that dog will bark.
So I have to say, my short hairs have to wear bark collars.
They are the worst. Short hairs are the
Once
worst.
I put them up, and now I'm going to take another. Oh my gosh, they're naughty. So I do, and yeah, they want to hunt again. They've got a lot of drive.
They don't like not having a turn, even if they just had a turn.
Yeah. I remember though, this had to be like almost 20 years ago. We were up in Maine. We were at like Grand Lake Stream. We were grouse hunting. My husband was with me. We were with a couple friends. And you know how sometimes you go follow a trail and you're like, oh, I'll go for an hour walk. And like 5 hours later, right?
That's a long walk.
Okay, it was pretty brutal because there was like four of us and we were traversing an area. And it was we joked we walked almost to Canada. It's just that we were getting bird flushes and we kept rotating, down a line of walking a trail, and it was just really neat. And when we did turn around as we're getting back, we had left a dog in the truck in a crate, and we knew we were finally nearing the truck, and it was a lab valley girl. She was a master hunter. She's arr, arr, and you could tell it was her, like, you left me alone in a crate in the woods. I'm scared to death, like in Maine,
It was
and
like, hey,
oh,
hey.
yeah, it was pretty funny. But yeah, dogs can be barkers from the truck.
But it's usually more in the hunting situation because they know.
Oh yeah,
They
oh
know.
yeah.
But you could bring them to well, there's a story you probably know enough NAVDA history. One of the fellows or the founder of NAVDA was named Bodo Winterheld.
Hmm.
And he was a German immigrant, went to Canada, came to the States, and basically started NAVDA.
Yes.
And I got invited up to a clinic up in Ontario through my friend Jack Haig. So they got Bodo and Ed Bailey to get back. They hadn't seen each other in 20 some years since they started, 30 years almost. And they not that they got mad at each other, but Bodo moved to the West Coast and didn't have anything to do at NAVD anymore. And Ed Bailey wrote for Gundog, and they got Bailey and Bodo to come back together for this get together. And so the whole chapter showed up from Ontario. Nobody from the state showed up except me. I couldn't believe, like, I can't believe you guys don't want to go up and meet the people who. Anyway, this what goes to the dogs barking, and it was a short hair. Um, these guys are both in their 70s at this point, right? So they're not talking like this. They're a little weaker in the voice and
Yeah.
a little more frail. And they got a couple lawn chairs for them, and they had like a Q&A. And there's this one truck with this one dog that was doing that chop, that type, type, type. And you're like, and Bodo says, excuse me, with his German accent. Excuse me, whose dog is barking? And this lady goes, I think it's mine. And she knew it was hers, but she's like, I think it's
I
mine.
think.
And he goes, ma'am, it's not since I mind the sound of a barking dog. It's just that I don't like it if it's anywhere near me or one of mine.
Yeah.
She had she had to take her truck all the way down this power line easement, turn it the other way, and we could still hear this faint,
Yeah.
but at least we could hear Ed and Bodo give us
That's pretty I love that. That's a good story with his accent. My surgery was last Thursday. I got back from Florida April 2nd. I was home only 2 days. My dog truck was still connected to my horse trailer, and I turned around and I went to a field trial for my short hairs and met my trainer handler there. And it was right in Connecticut. And I think I told you I spent like 10 hours in the saddle because we did all the braces and I scouted for all his braces on Friday. And my dogs got to run twice on Friday. And I would no sooner put one up and I'd go to leave with the other. Arr, arr. And man, I turned right back around with my horse and I slapped a bark collar on because I'm like, you are not doing that. You're not going to practice that shit.
I know they can't help it. I know they
Yeah.
can't help it.
Yeah. And they had just run, but they're like, you're taking my sister.
But if you want to bring it all the way around, is the dog that's never had a patience line, never been restrained, you are up against it. I mean, like you're talking about a dog now that just it's going to bark in the kennel, but I'll bet your dog is not going to lose its teeth on the kennel door.
Yeah.
I met a dog. I saw the dog with my own two. You know what a gunner kennel looks like. You know how they're built. This dog destroyed the front door on a gunner kennel because he was left in his kennel and he was not crate trained well. He was ballistic, and this dog had almost no teeth.
Welcome to our world. That happened 2 weeks ago. Actually, it was the week I got home from Florida. I had to help navigate this a little bit. One of our regular German shepherds that comes to the kennel decided to have it out with the wire at night. And like, you know a dog that chews on wire because you can see the wire staining on their teeth. Like they actually get wire staining, and then you'll see all the wear. And there was like all blood in the morning in her kennel run because she just decided to like have a meltdown.
Yeah.
And that used to be a pretty common thing early in my career when I would just kind of take every dog. And I don't want to say I cherry pick dogs now, but if you went to drop off a dog that demonstrated to me that it had such anxiety in a kennel,
Right.
then I'm going to step in as a trainer and say, we need to work on this because I can't watch this dog if it's going to hurt itself in my facility.
Yeah.
And how can we better help this dog? But it's a shame that dogs go to those lengths to try and get out.
Yeah, I'll go to my grave unless it was actually a dog that had some wiring. Maybe it's a dog that's not wired right, but
Yeah.
a dog that would be properly crate trained and given its time to relax, given its time to find itself, is just not going to turn into that dog.
Yeah.
They just won't because they understand like the door's closed. Whether they can see through the door or they can't see through the door, that would be like an inmate being locked up in jail and not recognizing that you can't get out, right? They,
Yeah.
but when you're raised in a crib like I was, and if you were ever locked up in a jail cell like I was once for 6 hours, you knew not to shake the bars. There was
Yeah.
no point in shaking the bars. You went like, oh boy, it's
Yeah.
it's not my turn.
So circling back for a minute, like this is literally in the puppy book. I hate wire crates. And the
Hmm.
reason I hate, you guys want some entertainment, some of the listeners Google dogs getting out of wire crates, and there's
Oh,
all kind of videos of like dogs being able to squeeze out of wire crates. Well, you can step back and think that it's kind of funny, one, it's the dogs get hurt, it's
yeah,
dangerous to the dogs, but they learn how to break out of a
right.
confinement. And so for anybody who wants to start a dog in a wire crate,
Yeah,
I'm like, why don't we try to avoid every potential problem that I know can happen and do it right from the start so they don't learn bad habit and now you're
right.
trying to go back and correct it. It's all
Even,
the whole chapter is called molding and shaping the perfect ball of clay.
yeah,
And right, that's what my chapter is like about because you don't right, isn't it? Anyway, it's molding and shaping the perfect ball of clay. I could put my dogs now when we go on our hunting trips. I bring like the Amazon foldable travel crates. Like they're super cool, like the canvasy ones or whatever. They're
yeah,
super easy. I can bring them in right to the Airbnbs we stay. And my dogs can like kick hard and get out of them.
right.
But
But
they
they
know
don't.
they don't because they respect rules and boundaries.
Right,
And once a young dog learns how to get out of a crate, they will forever try.
right. It's like a dog that goes to the garbage can.
Yeah.
Until something happens, like
Yep.
I've suggested mouse traps under paper towels, you know,
Yep.
until the dog teaches itself, oh shit, that's not worth it. A dog always thinks it's going to be worth it. You're right. And I've told people I'll give Gunner well, they're obviously a sponsor of mine. I tell people like this, the better crate, the better crate you can put your dog in that doesn't have any wiggle to the door. They
Yep.
they don't get a little purchase like your wire crate. I agree with you 100%. The fact that they can even get their paws out of the wire crate when they're little,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
That's a little something. They're instead of being restrained, they're like, I'm bored, but I'm getting the carpet. I'm getting a
Yep.
little carpet, right?
Yep.
That's not crate training. That's like half-ass crate training.
And when you can mold and shape a behavior so that's the learned response in the beginning, then they don't tend to challenge it.
Right,
But again,
exactly.
that pup, because when I go to my dog shows, when I go to the conformation shows, I bring wire crates. I hate wire crates, but I bring. Did you drink that already?
God, yeah, keep talking.
Okay. He downed a whole pint there. Um, I go to my confirmation dog shows and I bring wire crates. I can't stand it. They pinch my hands. I don't like them, but they're just that quick, convenient. And as soon as I put my dogs in them, they engage their off switch. They're like, okay, I'm in a crate. And again, I love those collapsible canvas crates to bring on hunting trips because they're from a perspective of space, they fit like
Oh
perfectly
yeah,
into one of the back lockers of my dog truck. I can fit two big ones and then Betty Cockers in there too.
yeah,
And I mean, set them up in seconds and the dogs just don't challenge them.
right. But if you started a puppy off in something like that, oh my God,
Screwed.
it'd be a
You're screwed.
disaster. Yeah.
Yeah. You
You've
know,
just taught them that everything, I'm Houdini and I'll get out of anything you put me in. Yeah.
yeah, and ironically, the Brittany puppy that I was talking about that learned how to play keep away so well, when they came to pick her up, they had a collapsible crate in the back of their car, and they showed me how she chewed the whole edge of it and like got out. And I'm just like,
Hmm.
if you teach them to be that clever and be naughty because you're presenting it to them, guess what? You've just educated your dog on how to be naughty.
Right. And
You know?
if a dog learns it on their own, they think it's right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way that they're going to go like, I wonder if this is right,
Yeah.
And that's where you have, learning to learn. You got to teach them to learn. And of course, the handlers have to learn to learn.
Yeah.
but it's not a two-way street. It's like a three-way. It's like a four-way intersection, basically.
Yeah. You
But
know, that learning to learn, I definitely break it down into, for me, what I experience of developmental stages of a puppy too. You know, as far as the 7 week to about 4 month marker, like hands down for me, I don't want a puppy 4 months and under, or even 4.5 months and under, interacting with big dogs.
right.
Unless I know and trust that other big dog and I know it inside and out, almost every single client who like applies to get their dog trained with us, and I used to have, has your dog been attacked by other dogs? Like they check, my dog's been attacked by other dogs, or my puppy's been attacked by other dogs. You don't subject your puppy. A 4 month old puppy is going to go up to a big dog and annoy him enough that they're going to get bit. And
Yeah.
you just subjected the puppy to trauma.
Right.
So I explain in here like why you bubble wrap them for the first 4 months. And I'd rather have them meet nobody than meet the wrong people and the wrong
Yeah.
dogs.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm so fortunate, like, and I'm pretty anal about this. I don't even let my puppies meet most people because most people untrain them. I let them meet the right people. I'd
Yeah.
rather have them meet 3 of the right people than 30 of the wrong people.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And then I talk about how, 5 months, they start to get a little bit more of a brain and socialization that, and size wise, they can handle a little bit playing more with the big dogs. But,
Right. Right.
the amount of customers that want to take an 8 week old puppy and plop it down with their adult dog just because, like, oh, he's good. I'm like, nope, one bite and it crushes his skull. It's not okay.
Right.
You have
Right.
to manage the heck out of it. And again, there's a lot of dogs out there that can be really good raisers of puppies.
Yeah,
There
there
are,
is. There is. You're right.
but
You're
do
right.
you want to take the chance? Because I can also I can write a book on throughout all my travels and career, knowing the dogs that have gotten maimed.
You could write a book named Oops.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I should. That's a good one.
There's your new one. Oops.
Yeah. Oops, I effed up the dog.
Oops, I
Yeah.
did it again. No,
Yeah.
you're right. There, we say kind of blanket statements. There are those dogs that, and that's what happens. Somebody's like, oh yeah, my aunt, she always put the puppies with, old Betsy. Well, Betsy
Yeah.
was just a sweetheart dog, didn't care.
Yeah.
But especially like you were talking about that Schnauzer, that one he's not he's not aggressive to the point where they got to put this dog down, but he's still feeling his oats.
Oh
That's
yeah.
the last dog you want to introduce a puppy to.
Hmm.
The last dog, because
You actually would have loved this dog. This dog had so much fortitude and moxie. Like he was a badass dog. My husband loved him. Like we loved him. And it's not my. I would recommend one of these dogs. They're really cool dogs because I love a really smart dog with moxie, and he had it. The problem is he had more moxie than they knew how to handle, and he had the upper hand. You know.
right. If he was your dog from 8 weeks on, totally different dog.
Wouldn't about the moment I met him, we established our relationship in 30 seconds, and he kind of bowed down and said, "Okay, can't
Yeah.
bite her." I'm like, "No, you can't."
Right, right.
As my daddy used to say, "I'll knock you into kingdom come."
Yeah, what was that? Bill Cosby had that album years ago. He says, "I made you, and I can make another one just like you." You know?
Oh man,
Well, yeah, we can go on forever, which we've been
I
going on
know.
almost ever. But anyway, Jennifer, you're requested to come back on a Zoom room in the next month or two. Because
Okay, I'd love that. That was fun.
it was fun. And your book, the new book, Lead Don't Follow. I've got a couple that do jujitsu with me. They just got married and they're looking at getting a dog and they're sending me links to things. I'm like, no, bad. No, don't do this, right?
Yeah.
I'm ordering your book and I'm sending it to them for their Christmas or their wedding
Thank
present.
you.
I didn't buy them
Thank you.
anything. They did they were both married before. But anyway, I'm going to order the book and that's going to be my wedding present to them. I'm like, before you send me another article or another kennel, I want you to read Jennifer's book. Okay. And you probably won't have to ask me any more questions.
I know. At this point, when customers reach out, like the woman that reached out this morning about the Schnauzer, I was like texting her, but I was like, please just get the book. Like I explain
Yeah.
it in a ton of detail, and it's not that I'm just explain it. In fact, I have a Zoom tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning with a gentleman that I used to guide at Tamarack Club in New York, and he lives in Utah now, and they have we tried to set one up before my shoulder surgery, but our Zoom is tomorrow. They're about to get a new puppy. So I do these Zoom with Brooms because if you didn't learn it in the book or you want me to help expand upon even further with my knowledge of getting a puppy or could this breeder be good, I help you avoid a lot of train wrecks before they happen
Yeah.
by just talking you through things. So, I've got this call tomorrow with these folks who want to get a lab, and I can't wait to see because I'm going to go through so much of the stuff that's in the book as far as genetics and where it comes from and what are your ultimately my first question are you want a dog? What's your goal? Why do you
Yeah.
want a dog? How
Yeah.
can I help you with that? You know?
Jennifer, are you not that you have 48 hours in a day because we all only have so much, but do you encourage people that like if I have not a problem but a question, do you have a service that through QK Kennels that they can?
So I usually like to help people directly. And when I did your Patreon thing, I extended, hey, people email me. And I got some of your Patreons emailed me and I just reached out and helped them.
Okay.
You know, I really like to share and help. And if it's somebody like asking a simple question or something like that, but it's also my profession. So if somebody really needs an hour of my time, that's
Right,
my
right,
lesson of Zoom. You can buy that package. You can go right to our website. And it's called Zoom with Broome, and you purchase
right,
an
right.
hour Zoom lesson, and we set it up. But like, I love to hear from people. I love to help people.
You don't mind an email introduction to find out what they need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even after your Patreon stuff, I actually gave people leads for other trainers that I know and said, here, this person's out near you, or hey, this is a great online platform that might help you or whatever. So, if it's quick and easy, it's not going to take me more than a few minutes. But if I get inundated too, I hate to ignore people, but I'll do the best that I can to help because I'd rather share my knowledge and avoid train wrecks and
Right.
for the dogs and the people.
And that's one of them dogs that don't show up that you are really happy that don't shows up.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, you heal up some more.
Thank you.
It's your left shoulder, so that's not where your shotgun sits. You're right-handed.
I'm right-handed. Well, so I shoot right-handed, but I'm left-handed, and all my dog work is left-handed, and getting on a horse is left-handed.
Oh, that's
That's
true.
yeah. So, but you know what? I now have 5 weeks to continue to let it heal, and then I can get into doing my strength training again, and I'll be back in the saddle in no time.
Well, you are one badass person. First time we connected, I'm like, oh my goodness, I wonder if she wants to go out on a date. I'm like, no, no, I wouldn't want anything. Your husband is, I don't want
He's
to say
a
saint.
saint.
Well, he's got to be a saint,
He
but
is a saint.
you are formidable. That's all I'm saying.
He's a saint. He knows how to manage me too, and then he just whoa, girl, whoa. No,
Yeah,
he's freaking awesome.
go down to the bar and lay off your shoulder for a minute. Well, Jennifer, thanks for coming on. It's
Thank
always
you.
great. I shouldn't ask this, but okay, this
Oh,
book now, lead don't follow, but
it
any well, wait,
it's
there's
well,
something
it's on
else
it.
coming up? Is anything else coming up?
Oh, so wait a minute. So where to get it? You can get it on Amazon. Both books are on Amazon.
Okay,
As a writer, we make pennies on the dollar if you get it off Amazon.
right.
If you go to our website, you get it, and I'll sign it and I'll personalize it for you. And I love to
Yeah.
do that as I did for yours.
Yes.
So you can go to our QK Dogs. So that's what it's qkdogs.com, and it's in the store. I've got articles in the making right now, and I've got some ideas for books, and we've got some fun things in the pipeline. So tune into QK. We've got clinics coming up and stuff, and just love to keep sharing the next chapters and journeys of what I learn and how I can share.
Well, it's what we do. It's what we love. I love
Thank
talking
you.
about it, and you love actually doing it.
Oh God, I love doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let me hit this thing called stop.